Hello, viewers. Welcome to another session of Code with Addo. I remain your amazing host. And today we shall be looking at HTML and CSS. What is HTML? What is CSS? Why HTML and why CSS? Please permit me to say this briefly. This particular session of HTML and CSS is primarily not for beginners. This particular session is for those with prior experience or prior knowledge, at least some basic knowledge with HTML and CSS, as we shall be delving into a very important key aspect called Flex and Media Query used in building modern responsive web pages. If you need a crash course on HTML and CSS, that will guide you and give you step by step on the first elementary things you need to help you carry on with these courses and other courses ahead. I recommend you click the link below, check our short video. I made it very simple, made it easy. That will guide and take you by the hand step by step on the first major things you need to help you flow well in this course and other subsequent courses and sessions we shall be having on this our channel. And please do well to like our channel, click on the subscribe button, and click on the bell notification to keep you updated each time we drop new content and video. Thank you once again. This course we shall be looking at HTML and CSS, and like I said, we shall be looking at two key parts called Flex and Media Query. Both Flex and Media Query are techniques used in CSS in building and developing modern responsive websites and web pages. But for the sake of this course, let me just give a very brief summary of what is HTML and what is CSS. HTML, the full meaning of HTML is hypertext markup language, and the full meaning of CSS is cascading style sheet. Both HTML and CSS are not programming languages, and that makes it very interesting that anybody with interest that would stick and follow simple things, follow the tags, and follow this course and with other materials and resources, you can easily build your stuff, build basic website. You might not be a programmer, you might not be an advanced tech person, but at least with this basic knowledge and resources out there, by following their documentation, official documentation, right, you can at least build basic things for your business. You can even have the opportunity, stand a better chance to other job opportunities, even in developed countries. You could even work remotely, working anywhere in the world from the comfort of your home. Yes, it is very possible. I am particular of that, and I have tens of students that have also gone through that phases, and they are living testimony. HTML means hypertext markup language. CSS is cascading style sheet. Like I said, both of them are not programming languages. HTML is a markup language, while CSS is a style sheet language. Both HTML and CSS are not really owned by a particular person, but is being managed by an international organization called the World Wide Web Consortium. The World Wide Web Consortium was officially inaugurated in October 1st, 1994, and the lead person handling this, which is like the main person in the center of this, is a British scientist called Tim Berners-Lee. Tim Berners-Lee is also the inventor of the World Wide Web in 1989-1991 when the World Wide Web came to be. And here we are today. Both HTML and CSS are used to build websites, but not just websites. In this particular course, it is not just about building websites. We are taking a step ahead to build responsive websites, and that is the core reason for this particular session, for this particular course, HTML and CSS. HTML is just like you building a carcass. It's like building the frameworks. Like you have a building, for example, you're constructing a building. You could do your foundation, have the block work, if possible, have the roof over it, have the doors, have the windows. But you know the house is not yet ready. Yes, you could just manage it, but in terms of standard, in terms of what we know, it's not yet complete. What do? You have to come plaster, screed, paint, bring aesthetics, bring beautification, and all have you into it to make it a wonderful structure. That is exactly what happens to website and web pages. With HTML, you can have the structure. This should be this. This is what should respond. This is where so thing to be. But CSS bring like the beauty bring aesthetics, bring responsiveness, bring like little interaction, little automation, right, into your HTML. And both will give you a wonderful website and web pages. So let's delve strictly and directly into what we have for today called Flexbox and Media Query. Both Flexbox and Media Query, which I'll be calling for short Flex and Media Query, are both techniques in CSS used in developing responsive web pages. What is Flex? Flex is a one-dimensional layout model that stacks elements either in rows or in column. What do I mean? A flex is like a container, it's like a placeholder, it's like something that holds other thing. The same thing that holds other thing is called the parent. It's called the parent element, while every other element inside it are called children. And if it's just one, you can call it child, right? But now, what it does primarily is how it stacks, how it arranges, how it renders elements, right? How it renders its own children is the whole concept. And why are we talking about this? Let me say this. When you have your web pages, when you have websites, or when you go to your Facebook, when you go to your Twitter, when you go to Instagram, most of the time, over 80% of people that surf the web around the world are usually on their mobile devices, use smaller screen. Whereas as a developer, you use your desktop to build, you test mainly from your desktop. But the exact people that will be using these things, usually most of them use mobile devices. And that is where it comes to play, that it is not just about building websites, it is not just about building web pages, but you have to meet the minimum international standard of number one, security, responsiveness, and continuity. And that is the core reason behind this particular HTML and CSS course. Flexbox, I come again. Flexbox is a one-dimensional layout model that what I mean is this: Flexbox is telling you how elements are being arranged. It either arranges it horizontally or it arranges it vertically. Remember, in mathematics, we have the x and y axis. The x-axis is the main axis, which is the horizontal axis, while the y-axis is the vertical perpendicular axis to the x-axis. So by default, Flex arranges things horizontally. That means in rule. Rule means horizontal. Column means vertical. That is why if you have like on your menu on most websites, when you view it on desktop, you could see the logo to the left side, and you could see the menu about home, about us, services, contact us. You see them flow to the right. Then you could have search in the center or have other things, icons here and there, right? But mainly when you view on mobile devices, that same view you got on desktop that has the logo to the left and probably the menu to the right, when you view it on phone, what happens? You see the logo comes first. The menu could come next, and other item, one on top of the other from top to bottom. And that is the concept behind what we shall be looking at today. That is Flex. How you stack things horizontally or vertically. When it is horizontal in role, it is mainly for desktop or larger views, right? But when it is in column, it is mainly for phone. But take note of this: by default, that means without you specifying either the direction should be in row or column, by default, Flex always stack their elements in rows in the horizontal along the main axis. And that is like for desktop and for larger screen. But due to the fact that over 80% of people that surf the net around the world are usually on smaller devices such as the phone, it is now a best practice, it is now a standard that when you are building your website, when you are building your web app, you are intentional and you give priority to smaller screens such as phones. And that is what we call mobile first. Mobile first, as in when you are building like, okay, you are building for mobile devices. That is why you could now say that instead of it being default to be rule, you will now specify that flex direction should be column. That means everything I'm building it for smaller screen. But however, there is now a condition, there is now a check. You will now put that, however, If the device that is being used to view these services, if it's a larger device, right, it should automatically switch the rendering to raw, and that is where media query comes in. So in summary, what we shall be looking at practically in this course, we want to look at flex and media query. Flex and media query, and like I said, both of them are very wonderful techniques in CSS, right? That helps you build responsive web pages. And without your website being responsive, it is not meeting the standard. It is not meeting the standard. You have to have it that, okay, let my website, I'm building for mobile devices for smaller screen, but automatically, if it's being viewed on larger screens, such as laptops, such as computer with larger screen, it should also switch the rendering automatically, right? So you have like a check. Is this on mobile device? If it's on mobile device, give it in column. Else, if it's a wider screen, render it in row. That is what media query does. Thank you. Stick with me. We shall be going in details and practicals and looking at how to put this thing in code and how to bring it to life. Like I said, what we are looking at today, we are looking at HTML and CSS, and the particular features we are looking at, it's flex and media query. And these are two techniques used to make your website highly responsive. Please stick with us. I've said it before. I want to play it with you once again. Please like our channel, subscribe, and keep the notification bell on to keep you updated each time we drop new content. And please, you could do well to check our description, follow our Discord channel, and if you have any question during the course of this session, you can always drop it on the comment section or send me an email at codewithaddo@gmail.com. Thank you and God bless you. All right, so first thing I want us to do is let's create a new folder, and we could call this folder, maybe let's say responsive flex. And after that, we could open it with our editor, Visual Studio. Like I said, you can download Visual Studio from the official website and follow the on-screen instruction to complete it. If you have any challenge, please check our video, check the link below, and check the short video I did on downloading and setting up Visual Studio. You can use any other editor of your choice, but for the purpose of this session, we're using Visual Studio Code. Please keep in touch with us. Subscribe to our channel and keep your notification bell on to keep in touch with us when new content are dropped, right? So now I've opened it. Let me just close this. So what I want to do is to create the two files, an HTML file and the CSS file. So I'll do Control N. Let's this be for the HTML file. Let me save it. Let's save it as index.html. Your HTML file must always have the .html extension. Same with the CSS. Let me just create this and save it without having anything in it. Let me call this styles.css. Your CSS file must also end with the extension .css. So what we want to do here, let's have our HTML structure, actually HTML5 structure. When we talk about HTML, all we are using in HTML and all we are doing is actually HTML5 and the use of semantic tags and what have you. Like I said, this course is not meant for the crash course of HTML or HTML5. If you need that, please check the link below. You have access to the crash course I did where I introduced and like take it step by step on HTML5 and semantic tag and what have you. But as much as possible, please just follow me. But so the first thing I want to do is to start with my doc type HTML. This single line tells the document that this is an HTML5 document, not just the normal HTML. So what I start here, I start with the main HTML tag. Here I have the head. Then inside the head, one thing I want to put here is the title that displays on the bar. In other words, can I make this bigger? I hope it's not too small. Maybe I make it big like this, so it's very clear and easy to view, right? When I need to reduce, I will do that, but let's leave it this way. So here I could have maybe responsive flex. Another thing I want to add here is the meta tag. This meta tag is like one of the first control and command. We have other meta tags, but this tells this document that please treat this with respect to the screen that is being used to view it, right? So we could say name here, we have viewport, then we have the content. This content, we have the width. The width, let it be the device width. So we could say device um, width, then we give it an initial scale of 1.0 that by default don't zoom out or zoom in, let it remain. Then one last thing I want to do here is to link this style sheet, this CSS. We need to link it, and that is done in the head. So under link we have rel is a style sheet, then href. Here comes the name of the CSS file itself. Good. Then here we have the body, and inside the body let's have the three main semantic tag we want to use here. Let's have main. No, before main let's have the header. The header comes first before main. The header, then main, then let's just say footer. Let's say footer. But inside this main, let's define the div we want, that is the flex. I'll call this div, the first div, let this be the wrapper div. We could give it a class called let's call it flex wrapper. Then inside here let's have two children. Let's have the first one, let this be flex1 class. Let's give it flex1. Yes. Then let's have another child. Let's give this a class of flex2. So we've defined our HTML structure, but without anything. This is just the structure. It's just like we having the foundation without anything in. So let's have this display on a browser so we can follow up from beginning and see what we have. It's expected to be empty. Yes, good. There is nothing in there. But the first thing we want to do, take note here, is empty. But when we come here, let's come to the style and start. Let me still add one or two cleanup. Like I said, this first line, it's okay. Here we can add language. Let's just make it English by default. So now style. The first thing we want to do here, I want to call the body. Since we are not using class, we don't need points there. We don't need dot body. Since there's no class, this body, right, which is like the main parent for every other thing, starting from the header down. We want to give it a viewpoint height. So we can say height 100 viewpoint height. So what we are saying is that we are saying that capture the complete screen. So once we save, we come and refresh. You will observe this scroll, this long scroll here is just telling you, yeah, the viewpoint height is now on 100%. So let's reference now. Let's reference the parent, that is the wrapper, the flex. What do we name the flex wrapper? So because we use class for it, the way we reference it as usual, you put your dot now, flex wrapper. The first thing we want to do is to convert this div to a flex. And how do we convert it to flex? To convert it to flex, we are telling our display it's flex. Once we do this, all the flex we've been talking about, this div now is now being converted to flex. That means all flex property and features will now work on it, right? So let's look at it. Let's say display flex. Let's give it a height. Let's just give it a height of, let's say, 300 pixels. Then let's give it a background color. Although we'll later remove the color, but let's just keep a tab on what is happening. Once we give it gray and we come and, yeah, we did not give it width, but it spanned through. And this is actually spanning on the row. Like we said, by default, flex displays or renders its children in the row. But there's something called align item stretch. So by that default, it is stretching. Don't worry about that. Let's just continue and see what is happening. Like I said, every flex by default displays or renders in, like if we should say flex direction, it's by default rule. So even adding this rule makes no difference because already it is rule. But remember, I told us that we now will be the one to now change it to column. We'll change it as against the default settings. We'll change it to column. Why we are changing it to column? Because we are giving priority to the mobile screen. We say mobile first views, right? Remember that. So for now, let's just remove this. We'll introduce it when it's right so we can see the difference and have a good understanding of this thing. The next thing I want to do, I want to call the first flex1, and as well we'll make it a flex as well, right? So now let's give it a background color so we see the difference. Let's give it a background color. We could give this red, right? Then we could come and have the second flex2. Flex2 also it's a flex, so we give it flex, right? Let's give it a background color. Let's give it a background color of, let's say, blue. Okay, so once we come here and refresh, yes, it's not displaying because we've not specified the division of the width, right? There's something called flex. When we say flex1, this means that, remember something, I told us that the height, width, and property of children elements are being inherited from the parent. So that means flex1 and flex2, since the parent height is 300 pixels, once you have item in it, is going to maintain this height. And the width currently is not distributing because, like I said, using the align item stretch is filling up. So for you to display it, you have to give it a ratio, right? When I say flex1 here and I say flex1 here, what I'm saying is that the total, what it means is that the total width of the parent, share it in equal proportion, 1-1, that is 50-50%. That means when you refresh now, we have this halfway, we have this halfway. This flex is just a combination of, there's what we call the flex grow, flex string, and flex base. We'll go into all that, but for now, but just take note of the ratio. Like if I should come and change this to 3, for example, I am telling you that let the width of flex2 be times 3 of flex1, but both of them will still be equal to the total width of the parent element, which is the flex wrapper. So when I come here and I refresh, this is now like times 3, right? But take note of something. Both of these are still being displayed in a rule, in rule, in rule. But remember our media query. We say our media query, we say check this screen. If it is desktop, this is actually desktop, it is screen. But what if it is phone? If you should restore, it's also in rule, but it's meant to be in column. Or the best way to check this, you could use the dev tool. If you right click and click on inspect, you could come here, this icon here called toggle device toolbar. Good. This one, this toggle, once you click it, you see it has done to, you can select any phone, maybe iPhone 12 Pro Max. This is how it will appear if it's iPhone 12 Pro Max. But you see, it's still appearing as what? At rule, which is not what to say. In our introduction, I said it that by default we'll give priority to mobile devices. So we say we change the flex direction to what? Column. So once you change this flex direction to column, everything becomes column. Look at it. Once you refresh, you see it has become column. Now, if let's have two view. This is the desktop view has also become column. Let's have this. Let's have one for the mobile view. Let's have one for the mobile view. Yes, this should be for the mobile view. This should be for the desktop. Everything is now column. Everything is now meant, and take note of the distribution of this flex 1:3. If it is row, if it is row, if it is row, it applies horizontally, right? It applies on this is like times 3, depending on what you give it, like I just explained. And if it is column as well, if it is column and you refresh, it also apply. Now it will convert it to, like, let's call it the height, but still taking it from the total one there, right? You can see that. All right, so what we want to do now at this point, we want to add the media query to it. Now we could come to this media query. This is how we do it. We say at media, we could say minimum width. We say if the minimum width is 768 pixels, let's apply the change. So here we'll also call the flex wrapper. We'll call the flex wrapper and say we change the flex direction now. If the minimum width, if the minimum width is 768, if it is 768 and higher and above, that means it's no longer a mobile device. Then change it to row. Okay, so this brings about the automation on desktop. It is now row, right? On mobile device it remains column, row, column, row, column, row, column. So this is applying flex, putting flex to play and using your media query. What we've done here, this we are just using this as a placeholder. Later an image could come here, other content could come here, but what works for one works for all. Let's just look at a simple extension of this. Let's say in flex 1, let's have a h1 text. Let's say this is flex 1, right? Then here, let's have this h1 as well. And we have this is flex 2. Good. Now, when we come and refresh, we have this. Now, let's add something to make this thing looks better. Now, since we did not use class, we could just call the h1 here directly and just give it a color. And maybe we say white. We say white. When you refresh, yes, it is now white. Now, let's add one or two things to this thing. Take note, in this our HTML file, this flex wrapper, it's the parent to diffflex1, is the parent to diffflex2. It has two children. But diffflex1 also has a child, which is this h1. Flex2 also has another child too, which is also h1, right? So what we are going to do now is that let's just see how it plays. And remember, I said what applies to the parents applies to the children. That is what we call it bubbling. There's what we call bubbling encoding. We shall talk on this in other instances or other sessions. But for now, what we are saying is that if we want to apply, like we want this text, this h1 on this flex 1 to move to the center either horizontally or vertically, we could apply using, we come to flex 1. When we say justify content center, justify content moves on the main axis, on the x-axis. It will move it to the center on the horizontal. You can see it. But if you want it to move on the vertical as well, that means you apply align item center. This moves vertically, so it will move, that is, it's move both horizontal and vertical. But remember, this remains, even though this is h1, this is h1, but it remains because you only apply these features to the parent. So it is the child or children on whom it is applied that it will be affected. I don't know if you understand that, right? Like on flex 2 now, if we want that as well, in flex 2, which is the parent to another h1, if we should come and say justify content and center, let's not add align items so we see the difference. So if we come here now, this also will now apply to this second flex 2, and this is how it works. But mainly what we are trying to understand here is flex and media query. Okay, it's flex and media query. You can extend this later and do so many things to it. Let's say you duplicate this, and maybe you could duplicate and rename. If you duplicate, you would have yeah, you now have it too. Although it's touching each other, you could give you could come to this, the main flex wrapper. Now let's say we could come and say margin top. Maybe let's say margin top. Let's give it 15 pixels, for example. That is adding some extra space margin on top, so like it's not just modeled up together. You can see the difference now. So it applies both top and this, it's responsive. Once you view it on mobile device, you have it this way. Once you view it on desktop, it's this way, and that brings the automation. And this is one of the minimum requirement, at least the basic thing you need to know in setting up your responsive layout on your web pages. Once again, thank you for sticking with me up till this time. And like I've always said, if you have questions, please kindly drop it on the comment section and check our description. Follow our Discord channel to keep up with other activities happening. And please do like our channel, subscribe to our channel, and always keep your notification bell on to remain updated with us once new content are being uploaded and added. Thank you once again for staying by. See you in other session of Code with Addo. Thank you and God bless you.